Mom! My son Jacob shouted happily, pushing past me and the crowd of parents and VIPs. I saw him hug someone with his big body. Several cameras flashed in his direction, and it was well deserved. My boy had made his debut for his country, scored a try, and been named man of the match. The debut couldn't have gone better. Up until that moment, I was bursting with pride. To be honest, I'd been proud of him ever since he was offered his first professional rugby contract. All those early mornings and miles in the car to take him to training and matches seemed worth it. At the time, I was fed up with being a chauffeur for a teenager who dreamed of becoming a rugby player. That's natural. Some young players always fall by the wayside because their parents can't handle it. But not me, and not my son, an international rugby player. He was always a big guy. He didn't get that from me. He got it from his mother. His father, before he died of a heart attack, was a huge and passionate rugby fan. His uncle was a big semi-professional second-row player. I only got into rugby after marrying Jacob's mother. I think, given his mother's family, it was only natural that Jacob took up rugby. He was a bit of a difficult child growing up, and rugby and his coaches instilled in him a sense of discipline that I could never achieve. Jacob let go of his mother and turned to me. The joyful expression on his face was replaced by nervousness. Nervousness he never showed before a game. I felt my muscles tense, and the woman standing next to me looked confused as Jacob and his mother approached us. Jacob's mother was not my wife. The woman standing next to me was my wife. We had been married for 8 years. She was an amazing woman. She never complained about playing second fiddle to Jacob's rugby. Now I was trying to make up for my guilt toward her. I hadn't seen Jacob's mother in over 10 years. Jacob's mother, Vivian, was what you might call a blonde bombshell. She always kept herself in shape, had large breasts, dressed well, and had a lively and flirtatious personality. She always attracted attention wherever she went. Today was no exception. I could see that the men in the room, especially the journalists, were wondering who Jacob's mother was. I put my arm around my wife's waist to calm her down. She had never received this kind of attention from the press, and I could feel her comparing herself to Vivian. Later, I planned to tell her that choosing between her and Vivian had been easy. I would choose my wife any day. Vivian, with her looks, was the kind of woman men dream about, but my wife was the kind of woman men realize they want as their wife only after she becomes their wife. When Vivian came closer, I noticed that she had aged. Wrinkles had appeared around her eyes. I hadn't seen her since the divorce. I hadn't spoken to her directly since she left me for her lover. "We love each other," she said to me. "We're soulmates," she added, twisting the knife in my heart even deeper. I knew about her affair. Her lover, Henry, was the main sponsor of Jacob's rugby club when he was still a junior, before he was spotted by scouts from Northampton. Jacob's uncle, Vivian's younger brother, played on the first team, but by then his career was coming to an end. Vivian and the man she left me for probably met at one of the rare games she came to watch her brother play. Thanks to him, she had access to the sponsor's lounge. I wasn't with her that day. Maybe I was at a tournament with Jacob, I don't know. But after that, Vivian started acting differently. She began going out with her friends more often, dressing up and not coming home until midnight. When she finally did come home, she always took a shower. Her phone became her most prized possession. She never let it out of her hands and would sit downstairs late into the night sending messages. Then she would start arguments over nothing. She would belittle everything about me. She probably thought she was being clever. But I knew something was wrong from the start. Our sex life declined, and she became less passionate. Considering her late nights out with friends, showers at odd hours, and secret messages, it didn't take an Einstein to figure out what was going on. It was classic cheating behavior. I learned that when I started looking for answers online. It was bad enough to do that to me, but it was affecting Jacob, so it had to stop. I managed to get her phone and find all her messages to Henry, hidden under the name Henrietta Work. Of all the qualities Vivian possessed, imagination was not one of them. Their messages disgusted me, and among them were nude photos. I talked to Vivian, and of course she repented, cried, apologized, and promised to break up with Henry. After that, things got better. I didn't want a divorce. I didn't want Jacob to grow up in a broken home like I did, so I started trying even harder. I worked more. We went to marriage counseling. Vivian started saying I love you all the time, sending me sweet messages and buying me gifts. Our sex life improved, and she became a more passionate lover. They call it love bombing, and just when I thought we were back to our old lives, it all stopped. I just knew in my heart that she had started seeing Henry again, or had never stopped. She hadn't stopped texting Henry. She had just bought a new phone. I didn't look for it. Vivian forgot to turn off the sound, and I heard it ring. I opened the drawer in her nightstand and found it. Vivian saw that I had taken it and knew the game was up. After the words, "We love each other and we're soulmates," I just looked her in the eyes and told her it was over, and she needed to pack her bags and leave. She could go live with her parents, her brother, or even Henry. I didn't care. It's funny that I wasn't upset. I was just disappointed. Disappointed that the woman I thought I was going to marry wasn't the woman I married. I got divorced quickly because Vivian was still in the fog of the affair and living in Henry's big, luxurious house, living the life she probably wanted. She gave me everything we had built together during our marriage. After 2 years of therapy, I got myself out of that situation. Then I met Sarah, my wife, the woman who became the love of my life. She taught me what true love is. From the day Vivian left, I didn't speak to her unless it was about Jacob. Jacob was showered with gifts from Vivian and Henry. Henry promised Jacob that one day he would play on the first team. Jacob, being young, believed him and thought Henry was cool, as he put it. I didn't tell my son about all the horrors that led to the breakdown of my marriage to Vivian, so Jacob was happy, unaware that Henry was a snake, and I felt like I was losing Jacob to Henry. Then Jacob was spotted by scouts from Northampton, who offered him a place on their professional team. Henry and Vivian tried their best to convince Jacob not to accept. Jacob was confused. He couldn't understand why Henry and his mother were trying to prevent him from fulfilling his dream. I could see how much he was struggling with the decision. Then I told him the truth about his mother and Henry. I told him that opportunities like this only come once in a lifetime and that he should seize it. The scouts from Northampton must have really liked Jacob because, when they found out about his hesitation, they tried very hard to convince him to join them. They thought they were competing with another professional team. In reality, it was a snake afraid of losing control of Jacob. Jacob listened with relief to me, the Northampton Scouts, and the Northampton first-team coach, who impressed me greatly with his phone call. His debut for Northampton at the age of 18 led to a call-up for the England under-20 team, and today he makes his debut for the national team. It has been a truly meteoric rise. When Jacob found out the truth, and his mother inadvertently confirmed it, he cut Henry out of his life. Both Vivian and Henry were furious. I felt some satisfaction at having saved Jacob from their control. "Hello, Vivian," I said tersely to my ex-wife. "This is Sarah, my wife," my mother introduced my stepmother. "Sarah, this is Vivian, Jacob's mother." I wasn't going to make a scene. This was Jacob's day. "Hello," Sarah said cautiously to Vivian. "Hello," Vivian replied with a weak smile. "I'll leave you two to talk," Sarah said, kissing me gently on the cheek and diffusing the tension. As she was about to leave, I pulled her back and kissed her gently on the lips. This public declaration of "I choose you" to my wife made her smile, and her eyes sparkled with love. "She's attractive," Vivian said when Sarah left. "Yes, she's everything I never dreamed of in a wife," I said, and that comment hurt Vivian. I could see it in her eyes. Jacob was dragged off to his interview, leaving us alone. Jacob didn't say you were coming. Did Henry come? I asked, trying to look nonchalant. Vivian looked uncomfortable. Henry and I aren't together anymore. We broke up shortly after Jacob transferred to Northampton. I see, I replied, not showing my feelings. I would like to say that I am above that and don't feel anything, but I have to admit that I feel some satisfaction that they are no longer together. To be honest, I should want him to be here so I could thank him. If he hadn't taken Vivian away from me, I would never have met Sarah, not to mention the pleasure I got from seeing Jacob reject him. Jacob played great, Vivian exclaimed, deliberately changing the subject. I'm so proud of them. Yes, I think he'll be on the team for a long time if he keeps playing that well, I agreed wholeheartedly. How are you? I asked with undisguised curiosity. Vivian tried to smile, but sadness overwhelmed her. Not very well, she admitted. When Jacob left for Northampton, Henry was furious. That's when I realized what kind of man he was. What a despot. He yelled at me constantly, blaming me for Jacob leaving. I'm sure he cheated on me after that. It became unbearable and I left him. I had to sell all my jewelry to get the money and I moved back in with my parents. It was humiliating. Only then did I realize how ashamed they were of me, of how our marriage had ended. I have a job and it pays well. I like it, but I can't say I'm happy. I miss having a partner. Vivian glanced over my shoulder at Sarah. Then she wiped away a tear. Shortly after I moved back in with my parents, my father died. They said he had a heart condition, but I can't shake the feeling that it was my fault. I'm very sorry your father died. Despite what happened between us, he was always kind to me. He was a good man. I'm sorry you didn't tell me. I would have liked to go to the funeral, I said sadly. Thank you, that's very kind of you, she replied gratefully. Are you seeing anyone? I asked. She shook her head. It turns out that when you're my age and divorced, you're not as good a catch as you think you are. Men just want sex, and I want a relationship. I want a home. I want what you and Sarah have. Vivian swallowed, trying to hold back her emotions. She looked relieved, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. I don't know why she told me all this. Probably because I'm the only one who won't judge her, because I already have. The only one she doesn't have to prove anything to. Mom! Jacob exclaimed. They want to talk to you. Vivian smiled at her son, then looked at me gratefully. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry I dumped all this on you. After listening to how unhappy she was, all my resentment toward her disappeared. Perhaps all those years of happiness with Sarah had helped me let go of the past. Oddly enough, I think I would have been happier if Vivian had been happy with Henry and living in luxury. Seeing Vivian so unhappy did not give me any pleasure. I always thought it would, but it didn't. Vivian walked toward her son, but stopped and came back to me. Touching my hand lightly, she said with a smile, Sarah is a happy woman, and I'm glad she makes you happy. But there was no happiness in Vivian's eyes. They were sad, as if she finally understood what she had lost. Why don't you go home with Jacob and spend some time with him? I asked when she approached our son. Are you sure? Vivian looked at me in surprise. Yes, I know how much he missed you when you stopped seeing Henry. You made him very happy by coming today. You should look after him more often. Won't Sarah mind? I'll talk to her. She'll understand. It never ceases to amaze me how understanding she is. I think it's time to let the past be the past. Jacob deserves a good relationship with us. Thank you. I know I don't deserve it. See you next time. Later, Jacob told me that Vivian had cried a lot when she got home. When Vivian left, I went over to Sarah, kissed her gently, and held her tight. I love you so much, I whispered in her ear, and she melted into my arms.